In 2015, a traffic jam occurred on the Beijing highway, which completely choked even a 50-lane highway. In 1980, a traffic jam on the French autoroute highway was so severe that vehicles were stuck for 175 kilometers from Paris to Lyon. It took several days for this traffic jam to be cleared. Similarly, in Brazil, Germany, and the United States, along with many other parts of the world, traffic jams have continued to occur where reports mentioned vehicles being stuck for up to 12 days. But today, the traffic jam I am going to talk about will surely leave you astonished. This traffic jam did not last for a few days, weeks, or months, but astonishingly continued for a full 8 years. Welcome once again to video, viewers. The world's longest and most difficult traffic jam occurred in the Suez Canal, where ships and their thousands of crew members remained badly stuck for the next 8 years. On highways and expressways, it may take several days at most to clear traffic jams. But clearing the jam in the Suez Canal was beyond anyone's control. Let us learn the interesting story of this unique and longest-lasting traffic jam in history. We all know that the Suez Canal is called the jewel of the shipping and trading industry. Before 1869, ships had to travel around Africa to reach Europe. The Suez Canal turned this months-long journey into a matter of days. And now ships from Europe could pass through the Mediterranean Sea and directly reach the Red Sea to access the Asian continent. By using this route, each ship saved nearly 10,000 kilometers of distance. In addition, several pirate gangs in African waters used to loot ships passing through these routes. Among them, Somali pirates and West African pirates were quite famous. These pirates would forcibly stop ships, loot goods worth millions of dollars, and hold the crew hostage to fulfill their demands. The Suez Canal helped ships avoid not only long distances but also these pirates. This incident dates back to June 5, 1967. When early in the morning 15 cargo ships entered the Suez Canal from the Mediterranean side. Normally, it takes ships 12 hours to cross this canal. But this hours-long journey was about to stretch into years. They had not the slightest idea of this. At that time, tensions were already rising between Egypt and Israel. And both neighboring countries were preparing for war against each other. If we look at the map, this line marks the border between Israel and Egypt. The Suez Canal lies about 200 kilometers away from this border. And this entire region is also known as the Sinai Peninsula, since they were quite far from the border. Neither Egypt nor those 15 ships were worried about the increasing tensions with Israel. But on that day, the boiling lava of tension erupted, and war suddenly began. Israeli forces launched a surprise attack on Egypt. Within just 1 hour, several rockets and planes crashed around the Suez Canal. The situation became so severe that Egyptian forces immediately closed the Suez Canal from both ends. Heavy clashes continued for the next 6 days. But Israeli forces succeeded in taking control of the entire Sinai Peninsula. Now a new border had been formed between Israel and Egypt. And the Suez Canal was the only thing separating the two countries. This was a major defeat for Egypt. To prevent Israeli forces from crossing the canal and advancing further, Egypt stationed boats on both sides of the Suez Canal, destroyed its own bridges, and installed mines throughout the canal. The only reason for doing this was to ensure that neither Israel nor anyone else could use the canal. During this time, the 15 cargo ships remained stuck in the Great Bitter Lake. To their west were Egyptian forces, and to their east were Israeli forces. They could neither return to the Mediterranean nor move toward the Red Sea. In short, the ships had no option but to remain there and wait. In addition to them, hundreds of other ships were also halted in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Everyone stood waiting in the hope that the matter would be resolved. But the situation kept becoming more serious. Days passed, then weeks, and then months, but tensions between Egypt and Israel did not end. The whole world was suffering because of this. Shipments were delayed, and freight charges increased many times over. Ships that previously used the Suez Canal to travel from Europe to the Middle East and Asia now had to go around the African continent. While the world was facing new challenges due to this war, the 15 ships stuck in the traffic jam and their crew were trapped in their own hardship. Among them were British, German, Swedish, Polish, French, Bulgarian, Czechoslovakian, and American ships. After several months, when it became clear that the issue would not be resolved anytime soon, the shipping companies recalled most of the crew, leaving only 10 people on each ship for maintenance. Every 2 or 3 months, even these 10 crew members were replaced with a new crew, hoping that one day they would succeed in moving their stranded ships. Living together for such a long time strengthened friendships among the crews of the 15 ships. To cope with depression, they organized activities. A small church was opened on the German ship where all Christians gathered every Sunday. On the Bulgarian ship, movie nights were arranged daily. On the Swedish ship, pool parties were held, and on the British ship, football was played. They even organized Olympic Games right in the middle of the Bitter Lake, naming them the Bitter Lake Olympics 1968. Year after year passed, but the ships remained in the same place. Eventually, a layer of dust had settled over them. Since these were neutral ships and had nothing to do with the conflict, neither Israel nor Egypt objected to food and supplies being delivered to them. After 6 years, in 1973, the war intensified once again. But this time Egypt initiated the attack. Egypt entered the Sinai Peninsula with full force and pushed Israeli forces back significantly. Heavy attacks were carried out from both sides. But this time an Israeli rocket accidentally struck one of the stranded American ships, which was destroyed and sank. This week-long war resulted in thousands of casualties on both sides. Finally, on October 24, 1973, a ceasefire agreement was reached between the two countries, and both began withdrawing their troops. The 6-year war had ended. But for the ships stuck in the traffic jam, it was as if the war still continued. Over these 6 years, debris from boats, ships, planes, and rockets had scattered inside the Suez Canal. Moreover, Egypt had installed mines there. For this reason, it was still impossible for the ships to leave. It took Egypt the next 2 years to properly clear the Suez Canal. On June 5, 1975, the canal was finally reopened after 8 years. After living together for such a long time, the remaining 14 ships finally left the Suez Canal. When they returned to their respective countries, they were warmly welcomed. After remaining closed for 8 years, traffic in the Suez Canal resumed once again. Such a massive traffic jam had never occurred before in history. Nor has anything like it happened since. On the other hand, relations between Egypt and Israel gradually improved. Israel returned the entire Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, and Egypt became the first Arab country to recognize Israel. Hopefully, you will like and share video as well. Thank you very much for your love-filled comments.